Hey fellow designers, it's Karen back with another sewing tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to make this gorgeous halter top mermaid prom gown with feather bottoms. So if you'd like more details on how to create a dress like this, stay tuned. But before you do, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with a friend that may be interested in my content, hit that notification bell and change it from personalized to all so you get notified every time I upload one of these helpful videos. Let's get started. Today we are learning how to do a feather train for a prom dress. So as you can see, I've already started the feather bottom. I have a row of feathers that I have glued along the edge of this neoprene train. And today I'm going to be continuing and just showing you guys the process. It's very easy, and also for me, very fun. So the items that you're gonna need for this are a neoprene bottom, or honestly it doesn't have to be neoprene, it can be any fabric of your choice. You can use something even lightweight. I just wanted something a little bit thicker since there are so many feathers. And then you're also going to need feathers. I will put the link to where I ordered the feathers in the description box. I have 600 feathers. I'm pretty sure this is going to be enough. So I got 12 bags of 50 feathers each. So believe it or not, there are actually 50 feathers in this bag, and I had a total of 12, and I used one of them already on this skirt. I also have a miniature hot Gorilla glue gun and hot glue Gorilla sticks. Gorilla hot glue sticks. I got both of these from Joann. They were not super expensive. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm working on the floor, so I just have this piece of foil to sit my glue gun on top of so I don't waste or spill any glue on the floor. So I started off with 2.5 yards of neoprene that I got from Fabrictopia in Houston, and I took my mermaid gown pattern, the skirt pattern, just from knee to floor. I believe I shortened it by about 5 inches and then widened it a little bit to get the front skirt train pattern piece. And then I used that same piece to kind of guide me to cut an even longer piece for the back so we would have an elongated train. And then this last little step here is me cutting out the godets, which I sewed into the side seams of that skirt. So here I am pinning it together. And then I sewed the godets to the front of the skirt first. And then in the next step, I took that super wide front pattern piece, pinned it to the back pattern piece, and sewed those two together. And I'm saying sewed, but as you can see, I actually used my serger instead. It's just a little bit faster, so that was my preference for this one. I love using the bottom of my mermaid gown pattern piece for these type of trains that are covered in another material because it saves so much fabric. It's a lot more cost effective to only have to get 2.5 yards than to have to buy like 6 yards to do a mermaid gown train. And here is the final shape of the train that we ended up with. Make sure you always stop and check your work frequently just to make sure everything is coming along the way that you want it to. So before I actually glued anything down, I just took my feathers and did a practice run and laid them down to practice my placement as far as spacing, etc. So that's what I'm doing in this step. And then I actually started gluing them down, and I'm going to show you guys in detail how to do that in just a second. But here's just a little time lapse of how it looked as it was coming along.
Take me to go shopping in Paris or go sailing overseas and just drape me in Gucci. No, all I ever asked was you.
So this is the train so far. The part that has feathers on it is the front of the train. And then once you move back there, that's the back of the train. So obviously it's longer in the back. The back is 75 inches long. The front is 30 inches long. So this package of feathers actually has about 50 feathers in it. So I'm just going to open it. Here's one feather. I think these are about 9 to 10 inches long. You can see for reference. This one actually might be about 12 inches long. Anyways, so this is the feather. Very fluffy. It really doesn't shed either. They're fairly good quality. So what you're going to do, I've already done my first row of feathers, and you can see how close I have them to the edge of the skirt. I may end up trimming the skirt a little bit, or if I have enough feathers left over, I may go back and add another row just so that you can't see any of the edge of the train. But basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your feather, and I like to glue it on the side to where when I lay it down, it'll be slanted or curved up and outwards a little bit. So you're gonna take your feather on the back of the feather and you're going to dab your hot glue along the spine of the feather, like so. Not a huge amount, but enough. And then you're going to place your feather where you want to place it. So I'm putting mine I'm overlapping it by about half a feather, if that makes sense. And then you just want to press. The glue is warm. It's not scorching hot, but if you put your skin on it like right after you lay it down, it might be a little uncomfortable. But as you can see, and I'm going to dab a little bit more on there because I think my glue wasn't super hot yet. It adheres like instantly and it has a really good hold. Like I glued these yesterday and they are on there. So I'm very confident they're not going to fall off or anything. So that's how you do it. And then you're just going to continue. I'm going to get a little bit closer this time so you guys can see better. Hot glue along the spine. And then you're just going to overlap it about halfway. Press down. If you don't want to feel that heat sensation on your finger, just press with the tip of your fingernail. And again, it adheres instantly. So I'm just going to continue doing this. I'll do a few more and then I'm just going to time lapse myself continuing. Very, very easy and very, very fun. That's 3. And then some of the feathers like this are like really little, but for the most part, they're really good looking.
Got the phone when you alone. All I ever asked was you to show me some love, kisses and hugs. No, I never had an issue. Go to the club with your boys, baby. I never wanted you to stay too long. Just wanted you to show me up. So won't you say my name, say my name. If you claim you want me, it ain't no that. You acting kinda shady. You ain't been calling me baby. Boy, you can go stop playing games, playing games. Really wanna give you all, but flex in front of your friends. How that works? Swear that you're doing the most, but we take a picture, get posted. How that works? But you talking back that shit up. Won't you say my, so won't you say my name, say my name. If you claim you want me, it ain't no that. You acting kinda shady. You ain't been calling me baby. Boy, you can go stop playing games, playing games.
So as you can see, this is pretty straightforward work. It's literally doing the same thing over and over. And all you're doing is just starting at the edge and working your way inward towards the center knee hole. So I was able to complete this in, I believe, 2 days, but I could have really done it in 1 day. It's not super time consuming. It's just kind of tedious, but for me, it was really, really fun. So I definitely recommend, if you are able to give this method a try. So here's me filling in the last few feathers. Once I got to this part, I had about 50 feathers left over, so I saved those, and I will show you the process of how I filled in the empty spaces near the knee right before I sewed the train to the top of the dress. So basically what I did was, once I got to the knee hole area, I took the feather and then I snipped off the super thick part of the stem so that I wouldn't have to be sewing through that. I could have actually snipped more because it's still kind of thick up there at the top. But then I applied the glue. And then I just glued the feather so that the part that I snipped lined up with the actual knee hole. And so I did that all the way around so that it was fully filled in, so that I could go ahead and sew it to the dress.
Did I ever ask you to take me to go shopping in Petticoat, sailing overseas and just drape me in Gucci? No, all I ever asked was you to pick up the phone when you alone. All I ever asked was you to show me some love, kisses and hugs. No, I never had an issue. Go to the club with your boys, baby. I never wanted you to stay too long, just wanted you to show me up. So won't you say my name, say my name? If you claim you want me, it ain't no that. You acting kinda shady. You ain't been calling me baby. Boy, you can go stop playing games, playing games. Really wanna give you all, but flex in front of your friends. How that works? Swear that you're doing the most, but we take a picture, can't post it. How that works? But you talking back that shit up. Won't you say my, so won't you say my name, say my name? If you claim you want me, it ain't no that. You acting kinda shady. You ain't been calling me baby. Boy, you can go stop playing games, playing games.
I ordered this petticoat from Amazon to help give some fullness to my feather train. It was a little big for what I needed, so I ended up cutting off like the bottom 3 rows. But basically it's like I believe it's called ripstop fabric, and it has these individual hoops of boning. So I cut off like the bottom 3 hoops. But right here, I'm just taking the center hole of the feather train and the center hole of the petticoat and pinning it together so that I can sew it together and sew it to the dress as one skirt. I'm not going to lie to y'all, this was not easy. It was probably the most annoying part of the whole process for me, basically because of the way that the center hole was on the petticoat and the shape of the petticoat. So the petticoat was like a full circle, and then my train was not quite a full circle because I used the pattern from my mermaid gown bottom. So it's close to a full circle, but not quite. So I was basically trying to mesh these 2 different shapes together, but eventually I got it done. I chose to focus this video mainly on doing the feather train, but I did record myself making the top portion of the dress, the halter top and the skirt. So here is me using my newest pattern, my halter top pattern. That's just the skirt portion. I folded my fabric over twice, and I'm cutting it out using the measurements that she fit into on my size chart. So there is my front piece, or actually that was my back piece. That's why I cut it in half, pinning it along the sides to the front piece, and then I serged it. I do want to stress though, serging is not going to be enough. A zigzag stitch is not going to be enough. You're going to have to go over with this Glimmer knit fabric. You're going to have to go over it with a straight stitch and a small sharp needle on your sewing machine, and you want to rub your needle down with Vaseline as you are sewing. Like every few stitches, you want to stop and rub it down with Vaseline. That's going to make sure that the needle goes through the fabric properly. So as you can see, I just cut out the mesh bodice, and I actually ended up elongating the bias pieces because I wanted her to have a tie in the back. Instead of the traditional halter, she has it tying in the back. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did for the top. If you need any tips, you can go on my YouTube page and check out my tutorial for sewing the halter top dress pattern. And here's the actual cover for that pattern. You can check it out at etsy.com/shop/KarenGwenCustoms. Serge the edge of the petticoat to the edge of my feather train. And now I'm taking my dress. It's turned right side out, and I just inserted it into the knee hole, and I'm pinning it together so that I can sew it together and the 2 pieces can become one dress. Take your time and sew multiple times for stability. So now I'm putting the dress on my mannequin just so I can see what it looks like. And I mentioned to you guys before that I ended up cutting off some of the petticoat at the bottom because it was just way too long for what I needed. So that's what I'm doing there. And then I hemmed it after the fact as well. But isn't this beautiful? Almost to the finish line. So in this clip, I'm taking the feathers that I had left over. Remember, I specifically stopped and saved about 50. That was because I needed to fill in that knee area. And now I'm just looking at the dress, eyeballing it, and adding more feathers to any place that I just feel is a little bit too sparse. So now I'm taking my bust appliques and I'm pinning them into place on the bodice where I want them to be. This client was not super full chested, so fortunately I was able to just have to get one pair. But you do want to keep in mind if you have a client that has a larger bust, you might have to buy more than one pair. And with these appliques, they are pretty expensive, so that cost can add up really quickly. So just make sure you plan ahead. Here I am hand stitching the appliques into place. This part isn't super complicated. You just want to kind of whip stitch it, make sure your thread matches, tie at least 4 or 5 knots before you cut your thread. This part is also really important. You guys, do not send your teenage prom clients to prom with their nipples showing. Take a new piece of spandex or whatever, cut out a circle that's going to cover the nipple area, and then just hand stitch it behind the applique so that they do not have too much exposure going on. This part does not take long at all, and it's a very important finishing touch. And I did hem the bottom of the petticoat and the bottom of the train just so there wouldn't be a raw edge. The last thing that you want to do with your dress before you give it to your client is take your own pictures and videos so that you have it just in case. Of course, we want to get images and footage from the client, you know, when they're all dolled up at their event, but sometimes they don't remember to send it to us, or sometimes they just don't want to send it to us. And so you always want to make sure you take the proper measures so that you have your own stuff to be able to add to your portfolio just in case you don't get anything back from the client. And also, at this point, a lot of us are burnt out on sewing. So just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of what you were able to make with your own two hands is such a rewarding and relaxing feeling. Like, just look at this. I was so proud of this dress. And to be honest, prom season and life in general really just kind of kicked my butt this year. So getting to this moment and being able to look at the finished product was everything for me. Okay, so I am about to package my prom dress. This is a coat hanger. I got a pack of 20 of these from Ross for like, I don't know, $12 or something. And then I have a dress bag that I got. Ooh, I look crazy. I have a dress bag that I got from wawak.com. It is a sewing supply online store. So every time prom season or any big project rolls around, I will just order a bunch of these just so I have them on hand. And now I'm gonna grab my dress. Mommy. Okay, so here's the dress. Yeah. And here is the inside of the dress. Yeah. So I sewed, Kylie, mommy's talking. I sewed these two ribbons into just like in the side seam right at the top of the skirt. This is going to help the dress hang on the coat hanger because you don't want all the weight of the dress hanging on this halter. That wouldn't be a good idea.
And make it subscribe and hit the bell. And don't lose my mommy all channels, so you have to watch my mommy channels.
Thanks, girl.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Now, in this case, it would have made sense for me to order like a giant dress bag with a bigger gusset at the bottom. But we gotta work with what we got. So I'm just going to take the skirt and kind of gather it into thirds. like so. And just tuck it into the bag. You want to be careful, make sure you're not pulling any of the feathers, because if you pull a feather, they are very secure, but if you pull a feather and the entire weight of like the dress is on it, it will rip off. So just be careful. Zip the back of the dress up. Okay, I look a mess, but the dress is finished and I'm on my way to deliver it. She fortunately only lives about 10 minutes away from me, because I'm grateful, because when I offered to drop it off, I didn't ask where she stayed at. So fortunately, it's not that far of a drive. I have the dress with me, and then I also brought just like a few like last minute alteration just in case items. My face is covered in glitter too. Needle, thread, pins, scissors. I bought my last 2 feathers and my hot glue gun just in case I see a last minute like sparse area. And then I also brought my sewing machine and some bobbins, like just in case. But I am 99.99995% sure that the dress is going to be perfect. So let's see. So this is the little alteration that we ended up doing. She felt like she just wanted a little bit more of a snug fit around her boobs. I personally thought it was fine as is, but a lot of times clients, you know, they just want to feel a little bit more secure. So we tucked it on each side by about a ½ inch, and then I stitched it down by hand at her house, and then that was it. It took about 30 minutes at the most for her to try it on and get fitted and everything, and then that was it. And she did end up sending me pictures, amazing, beautiful pictures that really captured the full beauty of the dress. I was so grateful that she sent me these. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Stay tuned for more. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.